the affordable housing bill now signed into law officially, that will pave way for the government now to deduct the 1.5% housing levy. So this is something that, you know, at the very beginning, remember this was something that was suspended for a while, citing that it was unconstitutional and it was discriminative in nature. That is according to the rulement that was issued by High Court that rendered the whole process unconstitutional. Now the government had to go back, you know, to the drawing board and draft some measures. Today, here we are. We have now the return of the levy. So I want to borrow your reaction, a quick one on this, Njoroge. What do you think of now the housing levy now being into a law? And of course, it gives government now a go-ahead to actually deduct this 1.5% from employers and employees. So what is your immediate reaction? And has it anchored the issues that were actually addressed in the ruling by the High Court?
Kenya being one of the best countries in Africa, the project is recommendable. But it's good for us as Kenyans to ask ourselves, is it time? For me, the housing levy, this is not the best time to initiate this project because Kenyans are going at a very harsh living economy. And for the government, if it was a must for this project to take place, there are very many measures. Maybe it would have invited investors, maybe private investors or foreign investors to come and invest, and the project will still have happened. But once the government says that we are going to start this project and finance the project, and the government itself has no money, that means the pinch will go to the normal Kenyan. Secondly, the main purpose of this because it was a manifesto during the campaign time for His Excellency the President. The main purpose was to create employment and maybe to reduce and ban the slums. Once, maybe if these investors are invited to come and invest in this nation, still our labor force will be employed. The issue of unemployment will still be handled. If these investors still comes and invest in those projects in Kenya, still the problem of reducing the slums will still take part, and it will be possible. So as for me, this is not the best time.
Okay.
Yeah.
When you talk about investors, are you referring to investors now coming to the country to build these houses?
Yes, of course.
But well, this 1.5% deduction, I believe, is meant to actually build these houses. This is what the government is doing. So in that regard, the same purpose of creating, the jobs that the president really talk about, it will create a lot of employment to the young people, and of course, in between, so many professions will be catered for in terms of job creation. So for me, I think, don't you think this is an issue that maybe it will address?
The 1.5% is deducted because we as Kenyans are sponsoring ourselves. This project is being sponsored by the government. But if it is a foreign investment, no deductions would be made to Kenyans.
Okay.
Yeah.
So as a Kenya, you're against the deduction?
I'm against the deduction.
All right, let me get Isaac's thought on this pretty quick. Well, Isaac, one of the reasons why High Court suspended this is because of the discriminative nature of this housing levy. Do you think now that particular aspect has been, thought after and actually corrected the way it's supposed to be? Or do you think it was a rush, some sort of a process?
First of all, we must acknowledge that the president signed that bill into law against the court order, right? So that means the aspects in the whole bill were not really clear or good, or they were draconian, so to say, to the Kenyan mwananchi. That's why the court said, no, we need to talk out some issues before it's passed. But the president said that because he has the sword, he decided to sign that into law, and whoever goes against it, he will face the sword. But again, you see that the issue of, let's look at it as Is it a necessity in the first place to Kenyans? Is it a need in the moment? It is not. Kenyans are we are still actually in the bigger chessboard of political movements where people are still forming coalitions. Right now we are having NADCO coming up where we think the opposition will be joining the government. We have the issue of security, the banditry, even the Al-Shabaab. We have the issue of fatality on the roads. We have the issue of corruption. We have so many issues in the country that need to be aired. Housing is none of them. So I think the politicians are creating, are just coming up with the problems and then creating solutions. Problems that do not affect any Kenyan. They are forming the problems and coming up with painful solutions. When I say painful solutions, it means the solutions that are includes robbing from Kenyans against their will.
Okay.
So housing is not a necessity at the moment.
Okay.
We have better things to deal with.
All right. We want to take a very short break and hold on to that thought. And of course, we are taking just a short break. When we come back, remember the discussion still continues, and this is the state of the nation. Welcome back. The discussion still continues. We're talking about the state of the nation, where we track matters, politics, economy, and everything in between. Remember, you can be part and parcel of this discussion. You can talk to us on all of our social media platforms. We are live on YouTube at KUTV News Kenya, or rather live. You can tweet me at Auma Evans. Remember to use the hashtag State of the Nation. So we'd like to hear your thoughts and comment, especially at a time when we are talking about matters, state of the nation, from the lens of young people. And of course, just to reintroduce my guest pretty quick, we have Dr. Kweyu Isaac, that is social scientist and policy maker, and of course Edwin Njoroge, ANC youth leader. Well, gentlemen, before we went on break, we were tracking matters, housing levy, and of course among these there is still some issues that still pend. Among, like, for example, one of the bone of contention about the reintroduced housing levy is the criteria of collecting 1.5% deduction we have from salaried Kenyans and unsalaried Kenyans. Now the real question is about the unsalaried Kenyans. What are some of the mechanisms to actually collect, and which criteria do you use to actually determine that this is the amount of money that you will deduct from your gross income as unsalaried Kenyans?
To deduct from the unsalaried citizens, once maybe the government will check on your bank transactions, your phone transactions, M-Pesa maybe that will lead them to the amount that they will deduct from you. Secondly, on this issue of the deduction of 1.5, today is when this thing has been put to bill. But the amount was started being cut from July last year, since when the financial bill was passed. So the question is, what about the amount that has been cut for the last months? Will it be refunded back to Kenyans, those who are deducted that amount, or will it be carried forward? What is the accountability of the amount that was cut in the last months?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. When you talk about the accountability part, now the bill has tried to address. We have a board that will actually manage these funds. So that is an area that has been looked into. But one area that still lack clarity is the amount of deduction that unsalaried Kenyans will actually be deducted. And of course, Isaac, this is something that maybe do you think the bill has addressed it, or it's still hanging somewhere?
The bill is not clear on how the naked man will be pickpocketed. The bill talks about 1.5% of salary. So for a young person like me who is only earning money from Taptengele, there are no traces of me working anywhere. How do you tax me? It is not addressing. Sometimes I'm even making more money than than some government officers. But there is nowhere that the government can trace me because they don't have my tax information. I have not indicated them on the platforms that I make money from. So the bill is not clear on the majority of Kenyans who are not earning salary every month. So that again makes it so draconian to the people who are earning salary, because somebody feels, how do you feel? It feels like having a job in Kenya is now a crime against the government. That is how they feel. It's like if you needed to have a job, you must make sure that the government doesn't even know about it. Even in the recent cases of a young man who was mentioning Remotask, just a few, close to a month later, the company shut down its operation in the country. Right now, there is no young man who can work online on Remotask and earn anything, because there was no criteria again of how somebody would come up and say they're earning 40,000 and the government did not even know about it. Probably they were planning something. And so there's no criteria at all on how people don't have jobs will contribute to the housing law. And again, the other laws that the president is passing, and even you wonder, for instance, like the tax on avocado. Somebody in the village in Muranga there only has maybe 2 trees or 1 tree, avocado tree, and you are telling them that you will tax them for having those trees. They'll choose not to sell those avocados, or they'll choose to convert that into firewood. There's another tax about the chicken tax, where you have to pay tax for every chicken and every livestock you are rearing. If I have 5 chicken in the village, I'll rather slaughter them for my visitors and stop the chicken rearing activity, other than pay money to the government that does not know where I got my chicken, how I feed it. They don't give anything in return for the money I pay them.
Okay.
Yeah.